Part 3 of Tristram and Iseult by Matthew Arnold. A year had flown, and o'er the sea away, in Cornwall Tristram and Queen Iseult lay, in King Mark's chapel in Tintagel old. There in a ship they bore those lovers cold. The young surviving Iseult one bright day had wandered forth. Her children were at play in a green circular hollow in the heath, which borders the sea-shore. A country path creeps over it from the tilled fields behind. The hollow's grassy banks are soft inclined, and to one standing on them, far and near, the lone unbroken view spreads bright and clear over the waste. This cirque of open ground is light and green. The heather, which all round creeps thickly, grows not here, but the pale grass is strewn with rocks and many a shivered mass of veined white gleaming quartz, and here and there dotted with holly trees and juniper. In the smooth centre of the opening stood 3 hollies side by side, and made a screen, warm with the winter sun of burnished green, with scarlet berries gemmed the fell-fare's food. Under the glittering hollies Iseult stands, watching her children play. Their little hands are busy gathering spars of quartz and streams of stag's horn for their hats. Anon with screams of mad delight they drop their spoils and bound among the holly clumps and broken ground, racing full speed and startling in their rush the fell-fares and the speckled missel thrush out of their glossy coverts. But when now their cheeks were flushed, and over each hot brow, under the feathered hats of the sweet pair, in blinding masses showered the golden hair. Then Iseult called them to her, and the 3 clustered under the holly screen, and she told them an old world Breton history. Warm in their mantles wrapped the 3 stood there, under the hollies in the clear still air. Mantles with those rich furs deep glistening, which Venice ships do from swart Egypt bring. Long they stayed still, then, pacing at their ease, moved up and down under the glossy trees. But still, as they pursued their warm dry road, from Iseult's lips the unbroken story flowed, and still the children listened, their blue eyes fixed on their mother's face in wide surprise. Nor did their looks stray once to the seaside, nor to the brown heaths round them, bright and wide, nor to the snow, which, though 'twas all away from the open heath, still by the hedgerows lay, nor to the shining sea-fowl that with screams bore up from where the bright Atlantic gleams, swooping to landward, nor to where, quite clear, the fell-fares settled on the thickets near. And they would still have listened till dark night came keen and chill down on the heather bright. But when the red glow on the sea grew cold, and the grey turrets of the castle old looked sternly through the frosty evening air, then Iseult took by the hand those children fair, and brought her tale to an end, and found the path, and led them home over the darkening heath. And is she happy? Does she see unmoved the days in which she might have lived and loved, slip without bringing bliss slowly away, one after one, tomorrow like today? Joy has not found her yet, nor ever will. Is it this thought which makes her mien so still, her features so fatigued, her eyes though sweet, so sunk, so rarely lifted, save to meet her children's? She moves slow, her voice alone hath yet an infantine and silver tone, but even that comes languidly. In truth, she seems one dying in a mask of youth. And now she will go home and softly lay her laughing children in their beds and play a while with them before they sleep, and then she'll light her silver lamp, which fishermen, dragging their nets through the rough waves afar, along this iron coast know like a star, and take her broidery frame, and there she'll sit, hour after hour, her gold curls sweeping it, lifting her soft-bent head only to mind her children or to listen to the wind. And when the clock peals midnight, she will move her work away and let her fingers rove across the shaggy brows of Tristram's hound, who lies guarding her feet along the ground. Or else she will fall musing, her blue eyes fixed, her slight hands clasped on her lap, then rise, and at her prie-dieu kneel, until she have told her rosary beads of ebony tipped with gold, then to her soft sleep, and tomorrow will be today's exact repeated effigy. Yes, it is lonely for her in her hall. The children and the grey-haired seneschal, her women and Sir Tristram's aged hound, are there the sole companions to be found. But these she loves, and noisier life than this she would find ill to bear, weak as she is. She has her children too, and night and day is with them, and the wide heaths where they play, the hollies and the cliffs and the seashore, the sand, the seabirds and the distant sails, these are to her dear as to them, the tales with which this day the children she beguiled, she gleaned from Breton grandams when a child, in every hut along the sea-coast wild. She herself loves them still, and when they are told, can forget all to hear them as of old. Dear saints, it is not sorrow, as I hear, not suffering which shuts up eye and ear to all that has delighted them before, and lets us be what we were once no more. No, we may suffer deeply, yet retain power to be moved and soothed for all our pain by what of old pleased us and will again. No, 'tis the gradual furnace of the world, in whose hot air our spirits are upcurled, until they crumble, or else grow like steel, which kills in us the bloom, the youth, the spring, which leaves the fierce necessity to feel, but takes away the power. This can avail, by drying up our joy in everything, to make our former pleasures all seem stale. This, or some tyrannous single thought, some fit of passion, which subdues our souls to it, till for its sake alone we live and move. Call it ambition, or remorse, or love. This too can change us wholly, and make seem all which we did before shadow and dream. And yet I swear it angers me to see how this full passion gulls men potently, being in truth but a diseased unrest, and an unnatural overheat at best. How they are full of languor and distress, not having it, which when they do possess, they straightway are burnt up with fume and care, and spend their lives in posting here and there, where this plague drives them, and have little ease, are furious with themselves, and hard to please. Like that bold Caesar, the famed Roman wight, who wept at reading of a Grecian knight, who made a name at younger years than he. Or that renowned mirror of chivalry, Prince Alexander, Philip's peerless son, who carried the great war from Macedon into the Sudan's realm and thundered on, to die at 35 in Babylon. What tale did Iseult to the children say under the hollies that bright winter day? She told them of the fairy-haunted land, away the other side of Brittany, beyond the heaths edged by the lonely sea, of the deep forest glades of Broceliande, through whose green boughs the golden sunshine creeps, where Merlin by the enchanted thorn tree sleeps. For here he came with the Fay Vivian one April, when the warm days first began. He was on foot, and that false Fay, his friend, on her white palfrey. Here he met his end, in these lone sylvan glades that April day. This tale of Merlin and the lovely Fay was the one Iseult chose, and she brought clear before the children's fancy him and her. Blowing between the stems, the forest air had loosened the brown locks of Vivian's hair, which played on her flushed cheek, and her blue eyes sparkled with mocking glee and exercise. Her palfrey's flanks were mired and bathed in sweat, for they had travelled far and not stopped yet. A briar in that tangled wilderness had scored her white right hand, which she allows to rest ungloved on her green riding dress. The other warded off the drooping boughs. But still she chatted on, with her blue eyes fixed full on Merlin's face, her stately prize. Her haviour had the morning's fresh clear grace, the spirit of the woods was in her face. She looked so witching fair that learned wight forgot his craft, and his best wits took flight, and he grew fond and eager to obey his mistress, use her empire as she may. They came to where the brushwood ceased, and day peered twixt the stems, and the ground broke away in a sloped sward down to a brawling brook. And up as high as where they stood to look, on the brook's farther side was clear, but then the underwood and trees began again. This open glen was studded thick with thorns, then white with blossom, and you saw the horns, through last year's fern, of the shy fallow deer, who come at noon down to the water here. You saw the bright-eyed squirrels dart along, under the thorns on the green sward, and strong, the blackbird whistled from the dingles near, and the weird chirping of the woodpecker rang lonelily and sharp. The sky was fair, and a fresh breath of spring stirred everywhere. Merlin and Vivian stopped on the slope's brow to gaze on the light sea of leaf and bough, which glistering plays all round them, lone and mild, as if to itself the quiet forest smiled. Upon the brow top grew a thorn, and here the grass was dry and mossed, and you saw clear across the hollow white anemones starred the cool turf, and clumps of primroses ran out from the dark underwood behind. No fairer resting place a man could find. "Here let us halt," said Merlin then, and she nodded and tied her palfrey to a tree. They sate them down together, and asleep fell upon Merlin, more like death, so deep. Her finger on her lip then Vivian rose, and from her brown-locked head the wimple throws, and takes it in her hand, and waves it over the blossomed thorn tree and her sleeping lover. 9 times she waved the fluttering wimple round, and made a little plot of magic ground. And in that daisied circle, as men say, is Merlin prisoner till the judgment day. But she herself whither she will can rove, for she was passing weary of his love. End of Part 3, read by Alan Mapstone in Oxford, England.